problem. So feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat. I have the chat open, kind of looking at it now. So anything you want to cover or talk a little bit more about. I think, you know, I'm one of the people behind some of the Centercourt 360 stuff. So really the whole point of our time together is that, you know, Matt and I have spent a lot of time just assembling really phenomenal educators with a lot of different experiences. And there are, and we just want to make that available to you guys. So there's a lot of different things happening in the world today, a lot of different things happening in education. So we just want to be resources for you guys and resources for families. So however that works, or however that, whatever that means for you right now, feel free to ask and participate. And there'll be times when I'm going to kind of force people to participate. So just, if you can just play along with that, I think, and you can humor me. So we're going to talk today about social media and, you know, just challenges and opportunities with teens and the internet. So I am, just a little bit about me. I am the technology integration specialist at Del Barton. I've had 7 years in that role. I have a master's from Columbia in computing and education. I work with a number of independent schools on a tech steering committee. So I'm very familiar with things that are happening at Peck and Newark Academy and Pingree, and have some, you know, I think pretty good idea of some of the issues that really are happening across the state of New Jersey and across the country with technology and young people. So at our school, we developed a digital citizenship plan, a school-wide curriculum to really talk about things like social media. So I think this is something that is very kind of near and dear to my heart. That was really across all grade levels and across all disciplines. So something that I've spent a good amount of time on is thinking about some of these issues of about privacy and fair use and security, and how people interact with each other online, and digital portfolios, and kind of all these things that are very big now in education and the internet. And, you know, at Del Barton, I'm currently helping to create the best online experience that we can have at our school. So, and I've talked with a lot of educators about how that's going in other places. I'm interested to hear about how it's going or not going, depending on where your sons or daughters are. But that's just kind of where I'm at. So today, I want to kind of give an overview of, I think, some of the things that we can really dive more into at a later date as well, but just kind of give you a sense of, I think, some of the big topics and where I think there's a lot of work to be done with parents and students. So the first thing we're going to talk about is some of the challenges and just some of the legal considerations when it comes to young people, and some of the issues with adolescents, and then why are we focusing on social media? Why push your kids into having a social media presence? Why is that important? Because what are the opportunities? So that's going to be kind of how it goes. I'm going to assume right now that most of the people in the crowd are parents. Is that fair? Can you guys just use the chat or confirm or deny? Are there any students here, or are we all parents? Mostly parents. Yeah, parent and student. Okay, cool. Together. Nice. Okay, cool. So yeah, if there are any questions, or like, I do this, or is this okay, or anything like that, you can feel free to just unmute yourself and just stop me wherever I'm at. So, or if, you know, maybe your son or daughter disagrees with me, they might know a little bit more about it. So we're going to talk a little bit about adolescent development, cognitive and social processing, dialogue between parents and kids. So, you know, adolescence, right? So I think it's important, you know, just as an educator, to kind of lay some of the groundwork of like what it means to be an adolescent, because I think we lose track of that a little bit, especially when talking about social media and the internet. So what we know about adolescence is that it's a time of huge development for kids. And if you are a parent of a teenager, that leads, you know, you don't need me to tell you that, but a part of that is there's a lack of judgment, there's a lack of sort of foresight. There are elements of the brain in terms of executive functioning that are still forming, and the idea of identity. You know, identity is really an evolving element in, for teenagers, and it's changing obviously from a family-based identity to a teenage, to like a peer-based identity. So we see that in sort of the social parts. And so now the peer-to-peer stuff becomes very important. And, but also emotionally, you're seeing like a lot of sensitivity, you're seeing sort of a lot of desires and sort of struggling to like formulate that or think about that. And so it's a very, it's hard being a teenager. I think I have a lot of empathy for teenagers because I don't think it's an easy, all of these things together are very difficult. And then you throw social media onto that and, it becomes very, very complicated. So this is research, dating back to 2008, just hitting on that idea of identity, that online content and the online formation and your online presence is for teenagers now a major way of managing one's identity. And this was 11 years ago. So, really now your online presence and creating an online presence, whether it's through Instagram or Snapchat, mostly now for young kids, and probably in a private and just a peer-to-peer way, it's an attractable part of being a teenager, right? So, and that's okay. That's okay. It's totally normal. Trying and sort of experimenting with identity is a totally normal part of being a teenager. The problem is that when it's online, it's, you can screenshot it and put it out for the whole world to see. So those are some of the things that we're struggling with, because we know that kids, and teenagers struggle with that executive functioning piece. So this is just kind of a stat that I think speaks to that. So we know that, young people like texting. I mean, I like texting too, but why do young people love texting? Not because it gives people time to think, right? But because it's quick and easy. So that is, I think, speaks to that kind of quick, immediate, do first and ask questions later kind of thing that happens with teenagers. And again, that's highly problematic sometimes when you're talking about, something online that we all know that can live forever. The highlight reel effect is another kind of stressor, I think, of adolescence. That, you have people posting on Instagram, these like incredibly curated lives that are not necessarily, reality. Right. And so these are all, again, like I say this all is saying, like, to say that I think it's extremely difficult and complicated to be a teenager right now. And I think kids need help. I think kids need help to do this. I think this is a very lame joke, but like, I think social media very much plays to kids' weaknesses, right? And so they have weaknesses in executive functioning. They have weaknesses in thinking ahead. They're super emotional. They crave this kind of peer-to-peer. And so the tendency, I think, or the desire to like make a mistake by saying something or posting something that, where maybe you're portrayed in a certain way is very real and then very lasting. So I think, if you're here, it's probably because you understand some of these things, but it is a major challenge. And so part of what I want to do, not just tonight, but in other facets of working with Centercourt, is just to be a resource for families in order to try to help round some of those weaknesses out. So, because I think on top of that, what I've given this talk, in a lot of different forums to a lot of different kinds of parents, a lot of different educators. So, and again, we can kind of focus on whatever we want, but I think parents are struggling with this too. Right. So parents and adults do not do a good job with their phone. They do not do a good job always modeling behavior for their kids. And I think most parents that I talk to now recognize that this is something that's important. They recognize that this is something that they need to do a good job of with their kids, but they don't necessarily have the knowledge, or they don't have the wherewithal or whatever it is. So, there's, whether it's parenting during meals or whether it's, just parents struggling to limit their device use. I think we see that kids and parents are like kind of in this together. Right. And yet a lot of parents feel like they're good role models for their children. I'm not sure how accurate that is, to be honest. And that's not to, throw parents under the bus. I think we're in a really difficult time right now where kids are kind of thrown into the fire. It's extremely difficult to be a teenager, along with this sort of lasting digital presence that people have. And and parents like did not grow up with this the same way that other people did. So, you know, in the future, one of the things I'd like to cover is just like a little bit more of the real life examples of how kids have made mistakes and why they've made mistakes and how those mistakes like have, how they could have avoided some of those mistakes. I want to do some scenarios about how would you respond? Like if this happened, like what should you do if you're a kid or you're a parent, and you see this, or you do, or you witness this. And then what's kind of what are some of the legal elements when it comes to identity theft or fair use or security or sexting, sexual relationships online? Like, what does the law say? These are some of the things that I deal with. So I'm just going to pause. Does anybody have any questions about some of the things I covered, or would like to talk a little bit more about any of this stuff? Because we're going to transition here. Good. Just like let everybody kind of catch their breath there. Okay. All right. So we'll just kind of keep going here. How are we doing on time? Okay. So I'm going to talk probably for another 15 minutes and then 20 minutes or so, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A too. So, so I believe personally, and this is what I work with at my school and when I work with other schools, that, you know, kind of thinking about, obviously, like not thinking about punishment and kind of traditional parenting. Like I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. And so like punishing them for doing the wrong thing but like to really have kids be internally motivated to create a positive social media presence, to use social media in a positive way as much as they can, because you're thinking about their choices and their goals. So I think that's very difficult to do those things, but I think that's the framework that I think is helpful in terms of that. So, and then people ask me, I give this talk to teachers sometimes, and I encourage teachers to be on social media to model, and they're like, well, why, like, this is all so problematic. Like, why would we do this? Like, what's the point? Why not just sort of stay away from all this stuff to begin with? So we know that social media is becoming more and more just how you brand yourself, how you hire people. So this is something just talking about using it as a resume. I certainly I treat social media, my own personal professional social media, as like as sort of a almost a lengthy resume or document of some of the things that are going on in my professional life. And I think more and more, obviously, parents are looking at colleges. So this is from 2000. So there's some interesting things that are happening here with colleges and kids and like monitoring social media accounts. So I want to just take you through that a little bit. And if I am not making sense or you want me to clarify something, feel free to ask. So in 2017, people said, our college admissions people said that, you know, it's fair game for them to visit a social applicant's account. So that's 2017. So that's pretty recent. So that's kind of the feeling, is that if it's out there, it's fair game that you could Google somebody, or you could try to jump on someone's Instagram account and check it out. Okay. Now going back in 2015, there was a feeling that 40% of admissions officers said they had visited social media applications, which is a huge jump, obviously, from 2008. So between 2008 and 2015, you see this major jump where you have college admissions people actively joining and are actively searching for kids online. So, and this is an example, I think, of some of the stuff that people would find. Like, we found a student's Twitter account that had some questionable language. So, and we still, you know, I think you still certainly see that. You see that kids are leaving things in their accounts or saying that maybe they said something in 8th grade, but it still is there that exists. So this is the kind of thing that you could find. When they were looking online, what are they looking for? And I think this is a really important question. So they're looking to verify special talent. So if you're an artist or you know, or you're an athlete, I think they're looking to verify or to see if there's a portfolio, if there's some kind of indication of their work or awards or your involvement in some of these things. So if you're somebody with special talent, and I think athlete would certainly be a part of that, that's something that they're looking to verify. They're looking to check out. If there are awards that you've been given allegedly, like that's something that people are Googling and making sure that you actually receive some of those awards. Obviously like criminal record, but I don't think that applies to a lot of people on the call probably. And especially if you're trying to seek scholarships. So I thought that was really interesting, especially related to student athletes. Like, you know, if a school is investing money in you, even if you're, you know, an athlete, they're going to do their homework on you. You know, they're major corporations. They're going to make sure that they're not investing that money in somebody that is that's going to be a liability for them, right? And I know that sounds obvious, but that's maybe a way of thinking about it for young people. So what is happening though, and just kind of going back to this slide here, what's happened is recently, but since 2015, 2019, this number has dropped. So college admissions officers are not as actively pursuing and trying to find things about kids online. And you think about, well, why is that? So what has changed, you know, from 2015 to now? So 2018 to 2015, it's like there's this huge rises. What has happened since then? And kids have really gone and done a really good job of going underground. And, you know, if you go to most kids' Instagram accounts, right, they're private. Their Snapchat accounts are private. That wasn't really necessarily the case in 2011, 2012, 2013, 14 with things like Twitter or Facebook before that. So what you have now is you have you have kids that are, you have an opportunity, I think, because you have admissions officers that are looking for this stuff, but they can't find it because kids are getting a little savvier at hiding that part of their lives, which is a good thing. But what I would suggest is that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, that you can really spend time and really earn value by being a little bit more Googleable. So, you know, there's just things to think about. Like if you're a young person listening or you're a parent, like how many videos do I have online that would convey what I would want a college internship or recruiter to know? Like you may have a lot of videos that are behind an Instagram wall that are not necessarily. You may say, oh, I'm doing a really good job of hiding that stuff. And I think most kids are doing that. But is it a positive indicator on you? Probably not. How many online profiles do I have that I'm proud of? So again, like I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing kids do a really good job of saying, well, mom, like colleges can't find my Instagram account. Like, don't worry. And it's like, yes, but that's not the only point. The point is not just to hide the bad stuff. It's to promote the good stuff. And so that's kind of that's my thing a little bit, is to get more on that second end, because I think kids are naturally become very good at hiding. And if I do a full name search on myself, how many positive results appear about me? So like, these are all questions maybe to ask or to model, or, you know, take a picture of this page to maybe show and ask and have a family conversation about. This is a good dinner table conversation. Like, do you have a positive internet presence, or do you just have a zero internet presence? And certainly it's to have zero internet presence is better than having a bad one, but it's not necessarily a positive. Because so again, I think there's an opportunity for young people now in the very, very competitive college admissions situation that I think they're not taking advantage of all the time. Oops, sorry. What do we got? All right. So I would try to Google yourself. So for me, and you may want to just like, you could maybe do this like right now. But if you were to, I think you can still see my screen, right? So if you were to Google like Rob Flynn Del Barton, like, or just like you were to Google Susie Smith, Randolph High School, or, you know, anybody, like, so if you think about your name in the school, like what would come up? And so I'm not that I've like worked really hard at this, like to fake this or anything myself, but like, there are a lot of articles and a lot of presence here for me that is, I think, you know, is positive. So I mean, obviously I'm an adult. I'm not a 16-year-old kid, but I mean this is the kind of thing that I think you should do. Like, if you're not sure, you should Google your kid's name and your school and see what comes up. Probably be a lot of athletics maybe, like, but is there maybe something else there that could be really positive? So that's just something to think about. Go back here. All right. I'm going to stop there. Are there questions, problems, concerns? Good. Okay. All right. Matt, you have any questions? You good?
I'm good, man. This is great. I think that at the end you'll kind of, I'm assuming this is more just kind of informational, and we're going to get into helping kids build these in later sessions.
Yeah.
But this is great information.
Okay. So, yeah, I hope this is valuable for people. Maybe it's just everyone's stunned in the silence. It's good. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? So this is from 2018, and just to kind of back up some of the ideas that I'm putting out to you. Okay, thank you, Stacy. I appreciate it. I spend a lot of time talking into a computer now, and I don't, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. So a majority say that students have become savvy about hiding their social media presence. Okay, so if your son or daughter is saying like, hey, like, I don't have anything bad online, then they're probably not wrong. So, but at the same time, you still have this number from before that is recent, from 2017, that they say that it's fair game for them to. So I think you still have, like, college admissions is more competitive than normal. So if you can be somebody who creates this positive presence, I think all the better for you. So my recommendation, and I was talking to Matt and Tara, works for Centercourt today about this. Like, my recommendation, I don't think you can start too young on this. Well, I shouldn't say too young. I think my recommendation would be, if you are entering into ninth grade, so if you're an eighth grader, you're a rising ninth grader, you should consider starting a professional online presence. You should choose, obviously, a social media platform. My advice would be to choose Twitter and LinkedIn. I would say if I'm a rising ninth grader, I'd probably start with Twitter. I would, and then eventually graduate to LinkedIn. I think having a goal of a long-standing, a 4-year presence on Twitter that is curated, professional, has to do with your interest, and we'll talk about kind of like what to do on there. So for Instagram, I think that could be fine. What I find personally, and I don't know, maybe this is just me being on Twitter for 7 or 8 years. It's a little 6 dozen, maybe 6 one, half dozen the other, that Twitter is really kind of where the professionals are. It's where kind of the adults are a little bit more. So I think you could certainly have, I don't think it's, if a kid really wants to have a professional Instagram account, but like, that's where the president is, that's where colleges like have a presence. That's where college coaches are. I mean, that's really, so if you're an athlete, like, I've coached football, right? So I'm the defensive line coach for Del Barton. You can't get recruited if you don't have a Twitter account. Like, you just can't get, like, the first thing they say is like, well, you have to have a Twitter account to get recruited to football players. So, I mean, that might be more specific to football than other places, but like that's why I would say Twitter versus something else. But, and then I would definitely say LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn has really been and does some really cool stuff for young people, for college and high school students. Oh yeah, cool. So we'll talk actually a little bit. That's a good question. So having an actor son, so even beyond Instagram, but like how to create and curate an online, a digital portfolio of, so like artists are kind of like can be like kind of a different world too. So I'm glad you brought that up. But just some other logistics, like use your full name in school. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad. Again, if you guys have any questions or clarifications, please let me know. So, and so things that you can do, and there's a lot here. This would probably be like its own 45-minute like talk and demo, is like what to post. But I think it's mostly like being real, posting things that you're actually interested in. So if you go to my Twitter page, I'm really interested in teaching, and especially reading, because I'm an English teacher, technology, and football. Those are really like the three things, and it's kind of equal parts of all things. But also to like connect with experts. So, and that's really why maybe Twitter versus something else. Like if you're really into history, to find other people, or to find other people that are interested in history, to dialogue, to show that you're kind of a connected thinker, that you are a self-motivated person, and that you're showing, show a little bit of who you are, and it's a little bit more personal than like the college essay or application. How am I doing on time? Okay, got a few more. So I'll just close and so just an example of some of this stuff. I wanted to show you some I think people who do a really good job. So the first one is an artist. So one of the people in the chat were talking about, my son is an artist, or is an actor, so how to kind of do that. So this is a guy that was at Del Barton, and he graduated a number of years ago, but sounds like kind of self-explanatory. But he started this Tumblr blog probably when he was like a freshman in high school. And what it ended up, he got featured on the front page of Tumblr a number of times, and now he's a digital artist at NYU. And this has become like basically, he's had this huge cult following on Tumblr. Like I said, he's been featured on the front page like 3 or 4 times, and like he just has a ton of work here going back. I mean, I could probably scroll back like years and years and years, and some of the stuff is really, really cool. I mean, so he went to NYU, and I think like there's this feeling sometimes like you only have to post like the good stuff or whatever. But I mean, this just shows to me, like if I'm a college admissions person, just an incredible amount of resilience and grit and like love of this medium, So that's just one example, I think, kind of different out of the box for a guy who's, is a special talent. So if you have a special talent, I would really think about a blog about, Tumblr might be a little bit old, but like whether it's a Google site or maybe Instagram might be better. Here's an example of a polished LinkedIn page. And so some of you guys might be like, LinkedIn, it's for adults. So this is a freshman at University of Michigan, and just kind of gives you an idea of how you could kind of fill this in a way that is relevant. So you have kind of an about section, activities, like discussion of, so it basically becomes like a working resume where you can put any kind of, any kind of those internships that kids are working on, work experience, but obviously, education, and even things like, you can see she has things on here about her high school experience, different certifications she has, her volunteer experience, and it comes out looking very professional, and just like this is something that she cares about. So I think this is something that can only benefit you. It's something that if you set up as a young, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, like this would be something probably I recommend for like juniors and seniors, like moving, up. But, can really only be, I think, a benefit, something that you can build on later. And then the last one I wanted to show you guys was it's actually one of the really high-level football athletes, football recruits in the state of New Jersey. And I really admire what this young man has done. And maybe, so some of you might be sitting here and you have student athletes, you have students that aspire to football. And the thing that I think is funny is like, it's very real. Like he's not, some people's Twitter page is very like, it's all just about, it feels very like clinical or very, but he has some stuff on here that like was very, very impressive to me, like this set of posts. So what are schools asking? Like, what do I choose look for when choosing a school? Education, master's degree. Like how many 4-star football players are talking about a master's degree? And not that like if I'm Nick Saban, I want to recruit some kid that like is going to be a genius, but this to me shows that he's a really squared away kid. And I think, there's those like little things that when you're recruiting kids that are very telling, and you kind of know it when you see it. And this to me was like, wow, this kid really, this would be a kid I would want on my team. I've been a coach for enough time now that you can kind of recognize that, and you kind of see the personality a little bit. And there's another post I wanted to show you guys just about, and again, like it's, some of the stuff is funny. Like it's him like, and I mean, it's him, some of the workout videos that he's done. So, I mean, these are relevant and things that you can, working hard. Yeah, a great link example show from a student. Thanks for what most kids try to avoid the resume. Yeah, I mean, I think it's something you have to, so that's a service I really want to provide families, like doing a backwards resume, like really thinking about some of this career stuff. But just to finish this one thought, I apologize, it's taking me a second to find it. But he has a post on here about just his teammates. Yeah, so this was really cool. So, I mean, this is him playing at a really high level. Sometimes it's not about the fans or yourself, but about the team. Come be a part of something. So he's recruiting for St. Peter's Prep right now. Be a part of something special. Welcome class of 2024. And like, wow, that's the kind of kid I want on my football program. Kid who's not just like doing his thing, but is advocating for others. So those would be examples that I would try to share. I'd want to share with young people, because I think sometimes it's like, well, it's hard to know what it is that you should be doing until you really like see those positive examples from other people. Hold on, I got something in the way here. All right, so we'll just finish up here. And we can go to Q&A. So some things that I would like to talk more about, or we can talk a little bit more about right now in the future. So if this is interesting to you, or you think would be interesting to your friends or your sons or daughters, I'd be happy to, we're going to do some more of these kinds of sessions in the future. But I think it's, going through some of those negative scenarios, understanding like, is this okay or is this not okay? Because some of those things are obvious and some of them aren't. But I find it very helpful to be like, all right, you see that your son is watching a YouTube video of something that's really like violent and scary. Like, how do you talk to your son in that situation? You see that your kids that one of your sons or daughters has been sexting. Like, how do you process that? Like, what's the legality around that? So that might be something that families find useful. I want to spend more time just really like kind of diving deep into LinkedIn and Twitter and how and what to put on there. And if you start kind of thinking about this presence, and then beyond that, like beyond just kind of the simple stuff, like really thinking about the conversation and connecting with experts and like really building your brand at a high level. These are all things that I think I talk to people about honestly all the time, and kids about all the time. So that's kind of it for me. We have a couple minutes. I want to respect everybody's time. We've got about 9 minutes. If you want to unmute yourself or turn your video on and ask a question or kind of cover something, be happy to talk more. Oh, Tara's on too. Hi, Tara.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Great.
Great presentation.
Great.
I want to figure out a Twitter account myself, so we'll work on that this week.
All right. We'll work together. Yeah, so I would like to run. So Stacy says, like, I wish my son could talk to you. Like, I like to run kind of a more targeted, like not quite like one-on-one, but maybe kind of a group session. We're trying to figure out like what the best way. So that might be a good way. Matt, maybe if people are interested to like reach out to you directly, if people kind of want this consulting, is that the best idea?
Yeah, I mean, listen, absolutely. I mean, we're here to help. I mean, that's the whole point of this. this Centercourt 360 we're doing is just to provide as much support as we can. So anything we can do to help, anything we can do, whether it's a one-on-one or a small group, we're happy to do. So certainly reach out, and we'll set that up. I think, Rob, this is kind of great. This is a really kind of fitting conversation to have right now, given that what else are we going to be doing over the next several weeks
Right.
or several months and being on our computers? And, we talk to, obviously Centercourt it's a sports business first. And so we talk to our athletes about making sure that we invest in ourselves and, make sure that we're training still. We keeping our regimen, our routines, after school and getting our workouts in and things like that. It's the same thing here, investing in yourself here, for your professional career. I mean, this is what you could be, and we've spoken a lot about this, Rob, is that, social media can be a tool for recruiting in itself from an athletic standpoint, being appealing to colleges, but certainly now, to your point earlier, businesses, we at Centercourt even go back and look at what somebody did. What does their LinkedIn profile look like? What is their, from a career standpoint, somebody has, if they're looking for jobs. This is a great time for us to spend time on the computer. We're here anyway, and building these profiles and hitting the ground running when we get out of here. So it's really fitting. Yeah.
So Leslie asked about book recommendations for growing a brand, and I've read so many books about kids in growing up and online, so books that I think that's not necessarily about the brand part of it, because I'm not a marketing person, I'm just an educator who's just been trying to help kids kind of work through this. But so books that I found really positive, one is iGen. So, and I'll just and this, again, these are kind of more just books about this generation of kids. So it's called iGen by Jane Twenge. So this is the book over here. So iGen by Jane Twenge. So this is a really good book for parents, kind of in general. And then another really good book is Screenwise, helping kids survive and thrive in the digital world. So those are two that I would recommend. Although I don't, it's a good question. I should probably have a better answer to that. I don't have
Hey, Rob, I think it'll be great if maybe we can roll this into some classes, for these parents, online. Maybe in the next few weeks we could, dive into it a little bit.
Yeah. So thanks. So that's kind of looking at this. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So just thinking about this period of time and Tara, we want to put together some classes for kids. So obviously I think most people here are parents. But if we can get a group of kids that are interested in this stuff, a group of parents that are going to force their kids to be interested in this stuff for a short period of time, this is the kind of stuff that I would like to cover. So I would like to be able to maybe take a couple classes or take a couple weeks and have your son or daughter end that period of time with a professional curated online presence that I've given them direct feedback on. And that's something that is honestly not a super, that's something that we can do. I think we can really put together pretty easily. And what, you may be sitting there and said, there's a lot of time right now, and I think Matt's point, this is an opportunity for maybe you to get ahead, and I think that's how I'm looking at the Centercourt 360 right now, is get ahead on the SATs, get ahead on the college essay, get ahead on some of the social media stuff. When is the world ever going to pause the way that it is now? So if that's something, or whether running a webinar on these topics or a class, a deeper dive where, we're really, there's homework, we're really taking and making sure that you're getting something as a parent, you're really getting something from the experience, or your son or daughter's really getting something tangible to leave with. And fourth grade marketing for tweens. Yeah. So, and also like, so there's this whole nother topic as well for young kids, right? And so there's like a whole nother element of this talk that is about balance and is about like media, like thinking about like what kinds of media are appropriate for kids and when is it appropriate to get a kid a phone and how do I like manage that process with, you know, I'm ready to get him an iPhone, but I'm not like, I mean, you know, that whole thing, right? It's very, very difficult in terms of like that gradual release of responsibility to the kid. So that's been definitely something that I've talked to parents about. It might be something that we can put together in a webinar form. So I would say, just to kind of wrap it too, if you're interested in me working with your son or daughter, give me a shout at one of these things. Talk to Matt. You can reach him directly at matt@centercourtclub.com. You guys have his email. You guys get emails from us all the time. And you know, we are, like we said, we are available to you, and hope that we can be a resource, and not just me, but like the tutors and some of the educators that we put together as part of this whole program are really awesome. Yeah, and like, so TikTok, right, has like major privacy concerns that like a fourth grader isn't necessarily going to be thinking about, but like maybe you care about as a parent. It's a Chinese-owned company, you know, like there's some of these, and you know, again, it's hard, and this stuff is hard too because, you know, I started giving this talk 5 or 6 years ago. It was like about Twitter, and now it was about Instagram, and now it's about, or Snapchat, and now it's about, you know, like, so it evolves so rapidly. I think it's a real challenge for parents, and like kids don't know, you know. I think going back to like this first concept, like kids really struggle with this because they're not equipped for this. Like they're not equipped to have a phone at 11, you know. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to give a kid a phone at 11, but like it is really a challenge, I think, for families to navigate it. And I know there's lots of families that have done a great job, but anyway, so it's 8:15 and I want to respect everybody's time, but again, hopefully you have my contact information and would love to talk to everybody more. So.
And we have another one of these next week. So if
good. Yeah.
If you're interested in, you know, we're going to dive in a little deeper on some of these topics, but please let people know that this is going on as well, because again, it makes us feel a lot more, you know, like we're doing more when there's more engagement, there's more people involved. So yeah, we want to make sure we're doing that. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell Grant hi. It's good to talk to you guys.